If someone refuses personal care, whether that be washing or changing, or maybe they're refusing medication or support of any description, the most common feeling is often to treat it as non-compliance. But here's the challenge. Refusal is always communication. And if we respond with force, hey, maybe we'll win the task, but we damage trust, we impact on their dignity, and we also affect potentially next time's cooperation. Hello, welcome back to the Able to Care podcast. I'm your host, Andy Baker, and today we're looking at a scenario that plays out in all different environments of adult services, residential care, home care, dementia support. And even if you're listening as a parent or teacher, stay with me because some of the same patterns show up in different ways at different times. Okay, so imagine we've got a situation. A support worker knocks on the door. Come on, we need to get you washed. The person snaps, get out. The worker tries again, firmer. The person shouts louder, throws something, and now it's an incident. And afterwards, the story becomes, they're so aggressive. They were refusing. They were being difficult. But that story skips some of the most useful questions. What made that personal care feel like a threat? Because to trigger the brain's fight-flight response, the brain must be perceiving something as a threat to a person's well-being or a threat to their identity. There must be I feel in danger here, and therefore I'm lashing out with a fight response for whatever reason. So we tend to assume that care tasks are neutral. And also because many carers are coming in, but I actually care. I'm trying to help you. I want to make your life better. I want to make you comfortable. I want to kind of provide and meet your needs. I want the medication to make you feel better, whatever it is. So we assume that the care tasks are going to be perceived as positive or at least neutral. But of course they're not. Personal care is intimate. It's vulnerable. It can involve sensory discomfort, embarrassment. It could trigger trauma history, pride, pain, or simply just the need to want autonomy and control. So the problem is, if we approach with speed and authority, we can often trigger that threat response in somebody. And even with things like medication, that we may know, hey, this is going to help, but maybe there's concern. Maybe their medication makes them feel a little uncomfortable. Maybe it's a case that they sometimes struggle to swallow it because it scares them a little bit. Maybe sometimes they don't like the way the medication makes them feel, or maybe it's a case of they're worried about being connected to that medication, or maybe they feel they don't deserve to feel better. They'd rather kind of at least know the pain is there to let them know they're alive. That may feel sad, but we have to recognize all behavior has a benefit. If there's no benefit, they wouldn't be doing it. So the portable tool, the 6 C's that we've covered on numerous different things, can be applied at any moment. And here's how I want you to frame the 6 C's today. Not as a checklist for policies, but as a moment-to-moment repair tool, looking at what's actually going on. So before you push the task on the person, ask yourself, first off, first C is comfort. Are they physically comfortable? Are they in pain? Have they got a temperature? Are they in sensory overload? Are they feeling in a safe place? Are they comfortable as they've just woken up? They may need a little bit longer to kind of wake up. Are they not feeling comfortable because they don't know who you are, or they're disorientated in that moment? Next one is then consistency. Is this a consistent pattern? Do you show up predictably? Or do different staff do things in different ways? If certain staff do it slowly, we had this exact conversation this week, actually. We were talking about a lady who was often very distressed by certain elements of personal care. And some of the staff were talking about how they find it better if they talk to the lady throughout. They explain exactly what they're doing at every step in the process. Whereas there seemed to be an opinion from other staff that it's better to just get on there and get it done as quickly as possible with minimal fuss, because she lashes out and hits and stuff like that. So it's better to do it quicker and get it over and done with. Now, these two different opinions, I don't know 100% which was right. I've got a feeling I know which was right, but I don't know 100% which is right for this lady. Maybe she does prefer silence and quick action. Maybe she prefers slow and communication. But at the moment, the staff are basing it purely on anecdotal evidence of this is what I do. And more than likely, most of the staff, when they're doing this, are just following whoever they were shadowing, whoever they were first working with. This is what they do, and therefore this is now what I do. I've never really explored the other side. This is what I do, and it works. Or this is what we do, and it seems to work. Or sometimes it doesn't. There's no actual data around what's working. It's all opinion. It's all subjective. So I've told exactly this group, start measuring it. look at how you approach, look at how you communicate, look at how it works, look at what her level of distress is, gauge it. Start actually collecting this stuff as data rather than just making assumptions. Look at which approach works better for this lady and causes her the least level of distress and also the greatest level of safety for the staff while still meeting their duty of care. And then you can start being consistent that all staff can be following that same pattern, that same care plan. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to work the same every day, but it does mean that we can start working at what which we know is more beneficial or more likely to work. The next one is connection. And we spoke again about this a lot this week and I've been delivering training. Is how often do we go in just to do the task and we forget about actually the focus on the person? And why would you let somebody who hasn't even taken the time to say, good morning, how are you? How did you sleep? Or how are you feeling? I love your dress. I love this. Hey, what do you think to my top? Whatever it is, and just engaged with me as a human being. Why would I trust them to then get me undressed? We have to think it's always connection before solution. And so often when I'm working with care teams, I always say, try and think anytime you're going into a task, you're going in with two jobs, not one. One is the task you've been sent to do, whatever it is, to support the person when getting ready or to change them or whatever it is. But the other one is just to build connection, just to have a conversation, just to build rapport, just to make them feel like they've got a friend. Because even if we don't get the task done, hopefully you've still got 1 out of 2 of those. But if we only go with a task, we're more likely to fail. There's a quote that's in my book, Targeting the Positive, and it comes from the film Patch Adams. And it talks about if you treat the disease, you might win, you might lose, but if you treat the person, then you'll always win. And I thought that was such a beautiful line that so many of us in care could benefit from really making as part of our habits and choices on a day-to-day. And this is the other thing, the next thing, choice. We can make a choice, but so can they. And it could be tiny choices. Or would you prefer this and then this? Or would you like this first? Or how would you like me to do this? Do you want me to hold your hands? And giving them as much choice as they can cognitively cope with, but also that we can to be able to support them appropriately through the task. The next one is then competency. What can they do themselves? So often staff do things for people when they are perfectly capable. One of my best friends worked in domiciliary care, and I remember he told me a story that I found really meaningful. He was looking after a guy, 35 years old, acquired brain injury after a motorcycle accident. And the staff were then having to go in to his home, this guy's home. He was living in his own home, providing personal care. And at the end of my friend going in and helping this guy have a shower, this guy turned to my mate and said, I want to thank you so much. That's the first time I felt dignified since I left hospital. This guy had been in care setting or in his own home, having carers come in 2 weeks. It's the first time that my mate had come across him. The difference was that my friend just put a sponge in his hand, put some shower gel in it and said, go for your life, mate. Just let me know if you can anything you can't do. Whereas every other person had gone in and just washed him. Now, a little bit of competency that at least I can still do this. At least I can do this bit here. I may not be able to do everything, but I can still do some of it. We're all about protecting dignity. We're all about protecting self-esteem and competency. And the last one is challenge. Maybe it's a bit hard for them to do stuff. And maybe some days they can do it and some days they can't. Don't belittle them if they're having a tough day. I always try and encourage people to be like a spotter in a gym. If I usually can lift the weight 10 times, but on that particular day I'm tired and I can only do it 9, that doesn't mean you should belittle me, say, well, you did it yesterday. Maybe I just need to be a spotter and it's more a psychological thing. And I could put my hands underneath and help you psychologically to get that weight back onto the rack. Or maybe you actually need help today, and that's okay too. We sometimes have this idea that even though we fluctuate in our ability to do things from a day-to-day basis, people in care should either be able to do it or not do it. And there is no fluctuation or change in that over a period of time. And I think with the think of those 6 C's, the comfort, the consistency, the connection, the choice, the competency, and the challenge, quite often refusal happens when one of those has collapsed. So maybe a better approach that we could use. Let's do it practically. Step 1, soften your approach. Instead of we need to get you washed, let's try, hey, is now a good time? Or would you prefer 10 minutes? And if they say 10 minutes, go, okay, well, I'm here to do this anyway. Should we have a chat? How you been doing? How you feeling? I'd love to look at, what's this picture you've got here? I'd love to talk about it. Trying to just engage them and go into connection first. Step 2, Offer two acceptable options. Again, giving them choice. Would you like to wash at the sink or have a shower? Not, do you want to wash? That invites a no rather than a choice. Step 3, protect dignity with competency. What can you do yourself? What would you like to do yourself? Even just putting it in their hand and go, hey, go for it. Just putting that in your face. For those of you who've done dementia training, using T+P Snow's principle of hand under hand principle can even help them to feel like they're doing it themselves rather than you doing it for them. So even if it's just face and hands, and that's all it can do, that small independence could reduce big conflict. Narrate and pace. I'm going to turn the water on. Tell me if it's too hot. I'm going to do this. Let me know if that's okay. I'm going to take this slowly. Let me know if it hurts. We have to understand that human beings need predictability. And predictability lowers threat. It's sometimes the fear of what you're about to do rather than what you're about to do itself. If I don't know what's coming, if I don't know what that noise is behind my back, straight away, it could be perceived as threat. So constant narration, constant communication, constantly giving permission and consent can reduce distress significantly. And if they escalate, don't corner them. Don't force it on them. I'm often teaching, and we did this week, where we looked at a 2-person job. If I'm doing something and taking my eye off the ball as far as focusing on the task, then what's my colleague doing in that moment? My colleague should be engaging with the individual, making sure they're comfortable, letting me know if anything's not okay, watching my back, but also then engaging with the individual themselves. But what I say is, if the person starts to become distressed, my colleague shouldn't just be holding them down going, quick, get it done. It should be a case of, hey, they're not happy. Move away. Let go. Stop it. Okay. And the same thing is something I'm sure many of you've heard before who work in certain sectors. But we have to understand that just because we don't think something's hurting somebody, that it isn't hurting somebody. And maybe they use the word ow, but actually it's because they're scared, because we didn't give them enough warning. Or sometimes it's because the sensory processing of some individuals, whether it be down to neurodivergence, whether it be down to their brain working differently, whether it be down to dementia, may mean that the ow, you're hurting me is genuinely true and that you are hurting them. And if somebody was hurting me and when I tried to ask them to stop, they didn't, well, you're probably going to get challenging behavior from me, or I'm going to lash out, or I'm going to scream and shout if somebody's doing that to me and doesn't stop. So if they escalate, when someone's nervous system is rising, doubling down on authority and control isn't going to make them feel safer. You may be able to battle them into compliance, but that doesn't mean that well-being. So pause, step back, lower the demand, offer some space, and later when calm, reflect what part of that felt worse for you. That's your prevention plan for tomorrow. If they can engage and they can communicate going, what did we do wrong? How can we do that better? How can we make you happier? If they can't communicate that, then you be the detective. Could we do that differently? What worked? Has anybody else found that they can support this person that causes them lower levels of distress? Because I want to copy what you do rather than just carry on doing what I do and causing this distress. Whatever setting you're in, think about this for anything. Any time that we are taking control over somebody else, whether that be personal care and dementia, whether it be encouraging a child with brushing their teeth or bath time or hair washing or anything like that, if it's education about doing a worksheet or anything along the lines of completing a certain tasks, exactly the same thing. The refusal is data. Treat it like information, not assuming it's defiance. If you found this episode useful, please like, comment, and share. Have you ever encountered an adult or child's behaviour that has felt difficult, overwhelming, or challenging? Have you sometimes felt at a loss of what to do, or know that you didn't handle it quite right? People are complex and unpredictable, and their behaviour can be like the weather. We've all made the mistake of looking out the window and feeling safe to wear shorts, but 5 minutes later wishing for an umbrella. What if, like a weatherman, you understood how humidity, temperature, and pressure all come together to cause the weather, allowing you to better prepare, predict, and respond, and prevent ever having a picnic ruined by a thunderstorm ever again? My book, called Targeting the Positive with Behaviours that Challenge, helps you to become the weatherman of behaviour. It provides you with a toolkit to increase competency, confidence, resilience, and empathy, so you feel more assured about how to respond to distressed or dysregulated behaviours in others, including those affected by trauma, mental health, neurodiversity, learning disabilities, or dementia. Build better connections, Achieve de-escalation and improve outcomes for yourself and those you engage with my celebrated 6-stage target model, a step-by-step process to reduce distress for everyone. Discover my empowering, person-centered guide in Targeting the Positive, written by me, Andy Baker, available from online bookstores worldwide. Find a link in the description and order today.